If you're a parent or a pupil, how can the individual go about seeking out change? What would your advice be to the individual who's in the middle of their education, or a parent whose child is going through that?
If you're a parent, I think you have to do, I feel, what we do with our two kids. You have to look at them as individuals again. I mean, we have two children. They're 20 children. I mean, they're 29 and 24 now, but they're kids to us. But they're very different. I always say, I was been asking lots of groups this recently. If you've got two kids or more, how many do you have?
I have one.
Well, does anybody here have two or more children? Look, I'll make you a bet here. Yeah? I'll make you a bet. If you've got two or more kids, I bet you they're completely different from each other, aren't they? Mm-hmm. Yeah. You would never confuse them, would you? Like, which one are you? Remind me. And because kids are, that's the point. So you have to look at them as people with obviously close bonds and similarities and genetic links, but also as freestanding individuals. So we tried hard to find schools that would work for our two kids, and that meant for a while at the same school, and then it didn't quite work. It worked for one but not the other, so we looked at that and we moved our daughter to a different school, which was much better suited to her particular set of talents. And then there came a point where we thought actually this wasn't the right. When we moved here, we put them both into the same school. It worked for James for a couple of years because he was in the junior year, but Kate was there for long and it didn't quite work out for us, so we moved her again. I'm not suggesting you keep moving people. In our case, that's what we try to do. I also Terry and I both work with the schools, but I think if you can create a partnership with the school, that's really important. Not a mode of interference. I mean, I think it's very important that you respect teachers' professionalism. You don't want parents bouncing in every 5 minutes to say, why didn't you give us a better mark for this piece of work? But I don't mean that. I don't mean micromanaging it or trying to do their job for them, but forming a collaboration because you know more about them in certain settings than they do. I know a lot of people who've opted for homeschooling. It's a big commitment. I'm not recommending it. I'm not recommending you don't. It's just you have to understand what's really involved if you're to do that. But I think you have to look at your own situation, your own circumstance, and your own children, and decide what's best for them. And I think parents should resist this one-size-fits-all idea too. I also do think, as a matter of fact, that you as a parent, you should at least question this dominant idea that every kid has to go to college. That if you don't go to university, your life is over. It's just not true. I'm not saying you shouldn't go to college. I'm saying ask the question. I know all kinds of young people who've gone to college who've done really well. I know all kinds of people as well who've gone there, had no idea what they were doing there. They were bouncing around the walls for 4 or 5 years, and they came out and they still didn't know what they were going to do next. It was like a holding camp. They just, because they had no idea what they really wanted. And a lot of people who would have been much happier going straight to work if they could have found it. Or perhaps doing something else, taking a gap year or interning or getting some experience outside of education. Again, you have to look at the individual. But one of the big shifts that we're seeing now is the move to online learning. And I think that's really very interesting. There are millions of people going online to learn. It's much cheaper, for one thing, than going to college. There are courses available that just weren't ever available before. But one of the effects of pushing people to university is it denigrates the other options. Like if you go to some vocational program, it's thought to be somehow second rate. And I think it's an appalling situation to have created. I mean, the whole world depends upon people who are good at things other than the things that universities like to do. Mm-hmm. And we should give them equal weight and status. And to teachers and students, I mean, the only thing I just want to say about this is that when teachers talk about the system, I always want them to understand that they are the system. If you're a teacher with a group of kids in front of you, you're the education system. And no matter what the standards are, no matter what the dominant culture of testing is, the system of education as far as those kids are concerned is what you do. And if you get more creative about what you do, you change the system for them anyway. And if enough people do it, then the whole thing changes. And the last thing, just for students, is, it's like, you can't learn anything for somebody else. You can't teach people things that they're not prepared to learn. Learning is a personal act, and I said it to my son when he went to college. The college offers a fantastic range of opportunities. It's up to you to take them. And I think one of the effects of this culture of standardization and testing is it's kind of disarmed students of their own responsibilities. They've become data points and consumers, and they're not seeing that they tend to give up on their own learning. It's just a course they have to get through. And so I think if students took learning into their own hands, that would be a massive shift.